On a really tight schedule, and we have a lot of people to get through, and teams as well, so I'm going to keep my spot up here brief as possible. And the 3-minute time rule on your acceptance speech is will be enforced. I'm sorry. Without any further ado, here we go. Welcome to the 27th annual Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame Banquet. I'd like to thank our sponsors first and foremost. The Squamish Tribe, Port Madison Enterprises, and the Kiana Lodge. Dave Barcelone's Trucktown, Olympic College Rangers, Geico Insurance and Randy Dubois, Minder Meats, Scott McClendon's Hardware, Arena Sports Bar and Grill, Albuquerque Santa Fe Land Rover, and Bremerton Bar and Grill. Upon further review, I think the best way to do this is I will call your name as the inductee, and please start making your way up to the podium. That will expedite our time, I think. So, the first award we're giving out is the Dick Todd Officials Award, and that will go to Harold Conway. Harold Conway was a 1956 graduate of Central Kitsap High School. He began playing city slow pitch in 1964. 50 years later, he still plays with the Seattle Silvertips, a 75 and over team that plays double headers once a week. Harold travels to St. George, Utah to compete in the Senior World Games. As an official for the last 39 years, he's refereed volleyball, basketball, and for the last 8 years has been a slow pitch umpire. For his time and dedication as an official, Harold is being recognized as the 2014 recipient of the Dick Todd Award. Please welcome to the stage, Harold Conway.
There you go, my friend.
Thank you.
You bet, thank you.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a great honor. And officiating, I'm planning to go to 85 years old, and I'll have maybe 48 years officiating, if the Lord grants it. Also, I'm gonna keep playing softball. And the team this year, the coach took all the 80s and formed another team. He picked up 379, so I've got 2 more years before 79. So I gotta try to recruit. Anybody out there 75 and older play ball? Okay. Okay, I shouldn't be here on this earth. 5 years ago, I was in the woods cutting down a tree. And I know the tree's gonna break up, and I hear it breaking up, and I hear a voice. Very calm. It was a male voice, and it says, "Harold, move." So I hear this voice, and that was it. It didn't tell me to go to the left, to the right, back, front. But my eye caught this tree to my left. I took a step over there, put my head against the tree, crouched my shoulders, and the tree came back and landed where I was standing. It broke in half, and the side was about this big. So he's giving me some more life here on earth. Is that it?
Thank you, Harold. Hey, Harold. I have a question for you. As a referee, you see, my wife is a Patriots fan. And I'm a Seahawks fan. No, she's not here, but I was wondering if maybe you could come by the house this week, because it's probably going to be a little rough.
I'll bring my whistle.
All right, bring your whistle. Thanks, buddy. The next award is the Rex Brown Distinguished Service Award, and that will go to Chuck and Sherry Bullard. Chuck and Sherry Bullard have been involved with wrestling for most of their lives. Chuck wrestled in high school, and Sherry was involved with her brothers while they were wrestling in school. When Chuck met Sherry, they discovered a mutual love for the sport. In 1992, they took the Kingston Lightning Wrestling Club and renamed it the Northwest Washington Wrestling Club in an effort to encompass the whole Kitsap Peninsula. Chuck and Sherry took wrestlers all over the country and coordinated many regional and national men's and women's teams for Washington. Chuck passed away in March of 2014. Since his passing, a local high school tournament has named the trophy the Chuck Ballard Grinder Award, and a state championship tournament has been named in his honor, the Chuck Bullard Memorial. Please welcome to the stage, Sherry Bullard.
These are two of my sons. The other one's in Japan right now. Normally, Chuck is the one that gave the speeches. I was always the one in the background. So I'll probably stop me when you need to, because I'm okay with that. Okay. I want to first thank my family and my boys. We spent a lot of time on the road, and they weren't with us. And I want to thank them for allowing us to do this thing we called wrestling. I then want to thank the hundreds of wrestlers and their families for allowing Chuck and I into their lives, for trusting us to be part of their families, and to believe that anything is possible. I've watched over the years wrestlers start at 3 and 4 years of age, and now they're out coaching and raising families of their own and giving back to the sport we call wrestling. Over the years, Chuck and I have worked with wrestlers of all ages and sizes, ability, male, female, amputees, big and small, young and old, some with disabilities who couldn't stand and some who were blind and deaf. Wrestling doesn't discriminate. Wrestling provides opportunities, and we always allowed wrestlers into our room no matter what. I've been asked many times why I do this and why I still do this, and there's many people think that I go to exotic places all over the world. I've been doing this, I've actually been involved with wrestling since my oldest brother, Lenny's been in high school, back in the early 70s or late 70s. As for those exotic places we went to, we spent a lot of time traveling the country, traveling the state, traveling many states, driving till late at night, getting up early in the morning, going to convention centers and schools, and coming back out when it's dark. We were always the first ones to get in there and the last ones to leave. Those exotic places I never saw because it was never light out. Chuck and I have been through a lot over the years. Many weekends we spent laughing, crying, growing, and supporting. Remember last week what it felt like when the Seahawks were losing and then they won? That's what we felt like every weekend. We had emotions going up and down and up and down. I can't possibly tell you all the adventures we've been on, so I'll hit on a couple. These are not wrestling moments. These are moments we took in while we were wrestling. It was about those wrestlers who battled with issues, such as how wrestling and religion belong to each other. We found avenues for them to go to figure that out. It was about wrestling families that called Chuck and I from across the country to tell us they just won a championship after battling every day. It's about our wrestling family sending us pictures of those awesome and not so awesome hotel rooms. It was about helping wrestlers that couldn't afford it. It was about our dear friends and our state chairman in New York when his wife called us on September 11th, 2011, and let us know that Ed made it down 74 flights of stairs that day. It was about those wrestlers who came to the hospital. Instead of Chuck being their coach, they were the coach in his corner. They got him up walking and talking, and they called him. They brought him medals after the state championships. It's about those same wrestlers that keep me busy. They continue to call me and talk to me. They keep me walking and talking when I'm numb and I can't move anymore. I want to end with this quote. Enjoy the little things in life because one day you'll look back and realize they're the big things. I know Chuck would be humbled by this award you're giving to us. He would say, this is what the wrestling family is all about. There's no off season. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Again, I'm very sorry to have to cut it short, but we have a lot of things to get through, so I'll keep my part short as well. The award for motorsports goes to Jim and Daryl Davis. Jim? Daryl Davis was one of the most successful motorcycle racers in the country, and he was 16 years old. His father, Jim, was a top rider in his own right. Jim started racing at 29 years old on a 250 Yamaha, winning races and championships in the 70s. Jim refined his bikes with his own gearing ideas and built his own carburetors. Daryl grew up around the track and got his first bike at 7 years old. At the age of 12, he was beating everyone in the 250 class, including his father. He did it on a bike that was 10 years old. Daryl had to wait till his 16th birthday to turn pro. He wasted no time winning on everything he rode. All across the Midwest to Daytona and Sturgis, South Dakota, Davis put it on him. It was at Erie County Fairgrounds in Hamburg, New York, that Daryl lost his life in a 4-bike crash. He was only 16 years old. Today, we induct Daryl and his father, Jim, into the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame.
I appreciate this award, and I'm sure Daryl would too, even though he did not race for awards and notoriety. He raced for the satisfaction of competing and winning. He did it with a lot of help from people in the local area. Harry McConnell, that's here, did a lot of work on our bikes for us. Brian Schoening, who's the son of Cliff and Marion Schoening at Cliff Cycle Center, helped us considerably. We had a lot of family and friends that helped us do this. One of the reasons Daryl raced at the level he raced at is he realized early on that satisfaction was greater the greater the challenge you had that you overcame. So he raced at a national level because he enjoyed winning at that level and getting the satisfaction of doing it. His high school schoolmates probably didn't even know what he was doing other than his closest friends, because he didn't say anything about it, didn't brag about it, any of that. So it's just, but on a national level, dirt track motorcycle racers all knew Daryl and respected him for his ability. He was also well liked. He knew a lot of the people he raced against very well, was friends with them. I suspect one of the reasons for that is he accepted Jesus Christ in his life and behaved accordingly. That's one of the few things that lets me deal with his loss. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, Gordon Farrar for track. Gordon Farrar was a junior in 1944 when he joined the track team that was coached by the legendary Ken Wills. The coach encouraged the 5'8", 145-pound Farrar to give high jump a try. Gordon never lost a dual meet competition and set the school record of 5'10", earning him a track scholarship to the Washington State University as a long jumper and a high jumper. He tied the school record at 6'2", and a knee injury sidelined him until 1950 when he returned to become Wazoo's best long jumper. Please welcome Gordon Farrar as our 2014 track inductee.
I thank the members of the Kitsap County Sports Hall of Fame for inducting me to the 2014 class. I was 6 years old when I moved to Bremerton. That's 80 years ago this month. In 1942, I started at Bremerton High School. Because of World War II, the school was on a split class basis. The junior and senior went to school 4 hours in the morning. The freshman and sophomore went to school 4 hours in the afternoon. During my junior year in high school, I joined the track team and started training on my own, running sprints and some high jumping. Coach Ken Wills, the coach at Bremerton High School, encouraged me to work on the high jump. I did, and I won every scheduled track meet my junior and senior year. My senior year, Coach Wills appointed me captain of the track team. I also tied the Kitsap County high jump record with a jump of 5 foot 10 1/4 inches. I entered Washington State College as a freshman in the fall of 1946. I turned out with the varsity track team, and the first time I met Coach Jack Mulberry, he asked me if I had done any other event besides high jump. I said no. He says, "You're too short to be a high jumper in this league." But I went out and jumped the same heights as the other guys were doing. So he put me on the team. My first varsity track meet was against the University of Washington, Husky Stadium in Seattle. I tied for first with UW high jumper, and we jumped 6 foot. The UW had been favored to win this meet, but because of my splitting the points at the tie, the UW did not win the meet. My highest jump at WSC when I cleared the bar at 6 foot 4 inches. Thinking I set a new school high jump record. The officials came out and measured the bar at 6 foot 2 inches. There was a 2-inch sag in the bar. But with this jump, at that time, I did tie the Washington State high jump record. At the beginning of my senior year, Coach Mulberry asked me if I would switch from the high jump to the broad jump. He said he had a team loaded with tall high jumpers. I agreed to the switch. By the time of the first track meet, I beat out Clinton Richardson, and I was #1 jumper. I only lost one dual meet my senior year, and that was against the University of Oregon. I never beat anybody at Oregon in either the high jump or the broad jump. At the Pacific Coast Northern Division Championship, I jumped 24 feet, 2 3/4 inches. With that jump, I did, for the first time, beat the University of Oregon broad jumper. And I also won the Pacific Coast ND Championship. I would like to acknowledge those who are here with me here today. My wife and I, next month, will celebrate our 62nd wedding anniversary. My 9 grandchildren are here today. Our 3 children and their spouses are here. and especially our 3 beautiful great-grandchildren. Today, I'll become a member of the 2014 Kitsap County Sports Hall of Fame. I would like to thank the members of the Kitsap Roundtable for selecting me for such an honor. Outside of my family, this is one of the best things that happened to me in my life. Thank you very much.
Next up, Joe Shirk, media. A South Kitsap graduate, Joe Shirk was a sports editor at the Bremerton-Sun in the 1960s before moving on to the Seattle Post-Intelligencer and the Tacoma News-Tribune. After 18 years on the sports beat, Joe took a job as a media public relations writer for the National Hot Rod Association. That spanned over 30 years. In 1989, Joe formed Joe Shirk Public Relations, where he has represented all the big names in National Hot Rod Association. And he's a great domino player. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, Joe Shirk.
There you go, buddy. Well, at least I'll be remembered for something. Believe me, it's a pleasure to be up here today. And as you said, over the years, in newspaper business and in the PR business, I was very fortunate to be able to be involved with some of the finest racers and the minds in motor racing, with drag racing. And during my stay in the newspaper business, I was happy to have worked at things like you said. I hit the jackpot with the radio, with the TV station. Oh, wait a minute. I also talked to radio and TV stations, but I hit the jackpot when I was able to work with at the Sun, the PI, and the Tacoma News Tribune, and have my phone ringing. It's gone now. But it's been a pleasure. And over the years, I have many people to thank. The people that I worked with, from R.J. Reynolds to everything else I worked with. I was fortunate to work with a lot of, like I said, the bright people along the world, along the track, including Jim Rockstad, who was at Seattle International Raceway along those long years, and we got made very good friends with him, and Jim was very active in that and venue. And so over the years, I've had a lot of people to thank, obviously, but the two that I have to look at foremost are Bob Torsiff, who was a sports editor at the Sun, hired me when I was just 20 years old. And a year and a bit later, I was a sports editor. And then like 3 years later, I was at the PI, kind of one of those weird things. And somebody asked me why I left the PI, and it's because Ted Pearson called and asked me to cover the Seattle Mariners. Well, I got a stranger look when a few years later, I was asked to become a PR person in drag racing and said yes. People said, "You're doing what? You're leaving this stuff?" Well, I did, fortunately, and it turned out to be a fantastic thing for me and everybody else. So I'm very happy about that, and this is an award, or an honor that I certainly never expected, and I'm certainly very proud to accept it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Next up is Paula Grande. In the coaches category, Paula Grande has been one of North Mason's biggest stars since she first stepped on a field or court as an athlete, who would later become one of the state's most accomplished coaches. At North Mason, she lettered 11 times. She went on to Olympic College, where she excelled on the hardwood and the softball diamond, setting school records and all-team honors. Paula then turned to coaching, where her achievements included a 2007 state championship in softball and an impressive 311 and 69 win-loss record. With league and district titles, including multiple Coaches of the Year awards, Paula was inducted into the Washington State Coaches Hall of Fame in 2012. It's an honor to present to you Paula Grande.
Well, I would like to thank the Kitsap County Roundtable. This is an amazing honor. And it's also really nice to be inducted in the same year as my Uncle Jim and my cousin Daryl, so that was very special. I would like to thank my family for supporting me. Coaching is not one of those great time things that just takes a little bit of time. So I have a great family that has supported my husband and me, allowed us to do this, and my aunts and uncles and everybody who's watched my kids for those hours that you don't get home until well after dark, and sometimes they were already in bed. So I definitely want to thank them. I remember my very first preseason meeting, my very first year, and I called all the girls in, and they kind of took a chance on me. I was 22 years old, and I told the girls, this is what we're going to do. We're going to turn this around. We are not going to finish like you finished in last place last year. We are going to win this league. And I told them all these things, and I remember one of my players came up afterwards. She was actually the athletic director's daughter, and she said, okay, how are we really going to do this? Because that's what every coach says. And they basically came from a program, a soccer, a volleyball, and a basketball program at our school that had won a combined 6 games that year. And I said, you guys are going to do it. That's how you're going to do it. We're changing your mindset. We're going to change what you do. Every single day in practice, you're going to put in the time. You're going to support your teammates. And that first group of girls that I had, sometimes I'm embarrassed to say, sometimes we were there for 3.5 hours. But the good thing was, parents thanked me later because they said their kids were too tired to get into any trouble. But that first team that I have actually paved the way for every other team that I had. They put in every bit of time, every bit of dedication, and took care of all of the little things. They were amazing kids, and it was basically from that point on, everybody knew if you were going to turn out for softball, you were going to work your tail off. There was going to be no excuses, no grade slippage. Everything was going to be done at 100% and being part of this amazing thing. And that first year, we went 8-0 to start the year, ended up winning the league. And from that point on, I think kids learned to train each other, and those girls came up with the idea, I think probably about 6 years into my coaching, and their slogan was then, tradition doesn't graduate. And I think they really passed on that mindset. And over the years, my girls probably weren't the best or the most athletic individual girls, but what they were girls that were willing to work together. And when I left every practice and every game, the one thing that I did know was that we won 80% of our games, but what I did know was 100% of the time, the girls that I coached were amazing. They were amazing kids with amazing class that had great work ethic, and that's what I'm so proud to be part of. So, thank you. Thank you.
Next up is Coach Paul Stoffel. Paul Stoffel grew up in Bremerton and participated in Pee Wees and Star of the Sea sports before moving on to West High, where he played center and linebacker. He was named captain of the Wildcat team in 1960, and that was the co-champion of the old Capital League with a 9-0-1 record, and ended up ranked 4th in the state. Paul's success led him to a full athletic scholarship to Wazoo, where he played for 2 seasons, then finishing his degree while as a starting linebacker for the Central Washington Wildcats. Paul became a teacher and a coach in 1966. In 1969, he returned to West High and his old coach, Chuck Samancic. By 1971, he became the head coach at Central Kitsap and compiled a 34-13-1 record with 2 Olympic League championships and 2 trips to the state playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame inductee, Paul Stoffel.
Coach, thank you. He used up a lot of my time, didn't he?
Your time starts now, Coach.
No, okay. It doesn't matter. Tommy Thompson ceded his time to me. He's a good friend. He said I can talk as long as I want. This is a great honor, and I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the roundtable, and I want to congratulate all the other inductees, because that in itself is an honor. I had all these stories to tell you, but I'll try to be brief. I have been very fortunate to grow up in a community that supported us as athletes and coaches beyond anything most places you'd find. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that my father, Von Stoffel, is also a member of this Hall of Fame. And obviously he probably had as big an impact on me as anybody else. He taught me a lot of things about playing and competing, and he taught me one thing that I'll never forget, and I would share with you, and you may share it with anybody else that you want to. He said many times that no matter how good you are at anything, or how good you think you are, there's always somebody better. And you know, over and over in my life, I've learned that sometimes the hard way. Chuck Szymanczyk taught me that 4 out of 5 tries at playing him as my ex-coach when I was at Central Kitsap. I've also learned that the most significant thing in terms of playing and coaching is that it's not just about me. It's about all the people that I played with, that I coached with, and that I coached. Anything that I've done has been a result of those relationships and those people who today make me proud to be here. Coaching probably was more important to me than most things that playing, more things than playing. And I remember when I got my first job at Tyee High School over in the South Seattle area. I remember meeting someone and said, what are you doing for a living? And I said, well, I'm going to be a coach. And before I could even say that teacher, that person said, oh, another coach. And I thought, you know, coaching is teaching. And I'm sure that most people here would echo that sentiment. And coaching is also inspiring others to do the very best that they can. In 1966, when I was a freshman football and basketball coach at Tyee High School, I read a series of articles that were written by Coach Paul W. Bryant, Bear Bryant to most of you. And I sent him a letter telling him how inspirational it was and how much I enjoyed what he had to say. It wasn't 2 weeks later that I received this letter. It says, University of Alabama, national football champions, 1961, 1964, and 1965. From the desk of Paul W. Bryant, athletic director and head football coach. Now remember, I'm just a little pissant 23-year-old. The mailman almost had a heart attack when he delivered it. And it's very short. He says, Dear Mr. Stoffel, you're 23 years old, Dear Mr. Stoffel, thank you very much for your letter and your very kind remarks about the articles in Sports Illustrated. I would like to wish you the best of luck in your coaching and hope you have a most successful season. Best wishes and kindest regards, Paul W. Bryant. I got a few other stories, but I have to cut them. Anyways, I've been very fortunate in my life to be associated with this county, with all the people that I've coached against, people I played with, and people I coached for. And I thank you again for this honor. And Tommy, now you have time.
Here you go, Coach. Next up, Tom Thompson, coach. Tommy informed me he had a lot to say, so I'm not even going to read any of his credentials. Everyone has a program, by the way, and you are more than welcome to follow along with the program. It highlights everybody's bio. So Tommy, come on up here, buddy.
Thank you, Phil. I'm still being timed. Thank you, Paul. 6 decades as a player and a coach, 4 decades as a coach. People always ask me, what is the biggest change I've seen over the years? Now, just the other day on TV, I saw a referee with a cell phone to his ear running backcourt on defense. Yeah, well, that would be what it was. But the reality is that, cutting to the chase, kids don't change. What changes, in 1966, these were my shorts at Olympic College. In 2013, my last year, my point guard, that's a change. As everybody else, we got here because of our parents, and my mom and dad took me to the show at age 3, and I was hooked. I was all in. My mom, at age 4, I almost died. I wouldn't be here. I was at a ball game watching Gary Tong or somebody play, and I choked on a Snickers candy bar. It was wedged in my throat, and I'm behind my mom, and they're gabbing and yelling, and the game's great. And I give it all this, and it wouldn't release. And I tapped my mom on her shoulder, and she turned around, and she chewed me out. I got my first lesson of sports. Quit being a bad sport. You don't give the choke sign to these young boys that are trying hard. Almost died. Lesson learned. I try to be a good sport. Be a good sport always. My dad was a very modest man. About all he ever said was, after beating me one-on-one or in a game of horse, he'd shoot the one knee up and 2-hand set shots. He said, you might want to look at defense and and passing the ball, or you're done in basketball. He was right. Very modest. I found out when I was age 19, my dad actually played with the great Marv Harshman at PLC. And that was a pretty good deal. Along came Jim Lindbergh, wherever Jim is, in 9th grade basketball. I think he was a first-year teacher, and he chose me to be on his varsity at CK Junior High, and the rest was history. In 1975, Jim Lindbergh again gave me my first high school assistant job, and it was a wonderful year. From then on, it was CK Junior High, Olympic College, and different places. What a career. I'm only here because of players, and we've been so gifted at CK Junior over the years. I'd like to just quickly, 3 of them that were on the same team right there, those 3 knuckleheads, stand up. All right. Curtis Patnode, right there, Curtis. These are typical why we were winning coaches at CK, just so typical. Curtis, I would argue, was the greatest 3-year player in CK Junior High history and possibly Kitsap County, even though he was the only 3-year player I ever had. But he was so good, but it did come with a price. He was a drama queen. If he ever missed 2 shots in a row, Bruce and I would be guaranteed we'd lose out on dinner that night because we had to smooth him over. Now, Scott Hamry on the right side over here, Scott was nothing like Curtis. He never saw a shot he didn't like. In fact, I overheard Scotty one time chewing out a teammate for not passing him the ball. I had to go up and remind Scott the game hadn't even started yet. And then there's Josh. Oh, really, Scotty, really. You were nicknamed, Bruce used to call him the Matador, because his defense, he just let people go by. I was a little bit more subtle. I'd say, Scott, I have no doubt someday you're going to be a great defensive player. And then I'd turn around and look at him, I said, I kind of hope it'd be as early as tomorrow. Josh Ellis, you can't say anything bad about him. He's Mr. Smooth. He was one of the great all-time players in Kitsap County. I think the closest I ever came to chewing him out was I asked him to retie his shoelaces once. And I want to just for a moment congratulate Josh. He's a major in the United States Air Force. You can sit down. They still mind me. And that's why we win at CK Junior High. I need a lifetime to talk about my coworker, Bruce Larson, who you just simply cannot do in a minute or anything. So I'll just simply hope that he understands the 28 to 38 years we spent together. A thank you is what I have. We were involved in a unique situation. How are we doing? That's nothing. I got 30 more seconds. And I, come by the 19th Hole Tavern after this, and I'll tell you more stories about Bruce, the real ones. But it was a blast, and I thank you from my heart, Bruce. We have many people in this room that have been part of my life, and I thank you all. I got a couple of former assistants, Bruce Welling, a Hall of Famer, Dave Cox, I think's in the room. One of my early teammates in junior high and high school, Jerry Murphy, is here. Several coaches are in this room, and people that have been involved and kind of shaped my life. I thank you all, including my wife, who, thank God, stayed away from the visiting coaches because she knew me better than anybody, and I was always afraid she was going to give some of my secrets out. So, but it's great. Thank you so much, very, very, very much.
Okay, for the first team award, this one goes out to the 1956-57 Olympic College basketball team. Roy Kreitzer. Ray? Ray. Here he comes. Phil Pesco coached the Olympic basketball team for 12 years, and his Rangers won 6 state junior college championships. Pesco considered the 56-57 team his best ever. The Rangers finished 20-3 and 13-1 in conference play. The lone conference setback was an 89-77 loss at Yakima Valley early in the season. The Rangers and Yakima were both 12-1 heading into the final game of the season at the Civic Center on OC campus. This time the Rangers rolled to a 72-54 win before a capacity crowd, and the players hoisted Coach Pesco on their shoulders. It was to be their 13th straight win. Welcome to the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame, the 1956-57 Olympic College Rangers basketball team. How you doing, buddy?
We need Tony up here too, by the way. My name is Roy. I was Kreitzer. I happened to be captain of that team, and that was the most unbelievable team I ever played on. I got to be honest with you. The guys are all right here. We shared the ball, really learned how to be a team. And that, what Phil Pesco said, I came back and coached under Phil, and he said over and over again, that was the epitome of his coaching in basketball. Even though he had better teams and individual players, that's the one achievement that he had in coaching where the team actually played as a unit. And we had basically 6-7 guys who played most of the time, and our average score individually, Bob Smither was our leading scorer at about 15 plus a game, and our 6th and 7th man averaged 8 and 9 points a game. And we beat teams by an average of 21 points a game. We lost our first game of the year to Oregon Tech, four-year school, by 28 points over East Bremerton Gym. And we had one day in between, and we're going to play them again. And Phil ran our butts off, I'll tell you, that next day. And we went out, after losing to them by 28 points, we beat them by 40. And they won this small college championship in Oregon. That same year, we beat Linfield down at Linfield, and they won their conference, a four-year school. So it was just an amazing team to play with, and the guys are all here. I'd like to just introduce them real quick, and if they want to say something, but here, Bob Smither, he was our leading scorer. Bernie Finley was from Lake Onondaga in New York. Tom Gilchrist, Tom Wallenborn, Jim Lindberg, Paul Cadd, Gary Tong, and then back there we got Tony Kemp Jacobs, who was, Don Jacobs is the only one that had passed away, and that's his widow. And we also, I'd like to just mention real quick, is our statistician for that team was Gary Lindgren, who is in the Sports Hall of Fame and as a writer in Tacoma in Pierce County. Anyway, if any of these guys want to say something.
We don't have time for that.
You don't have time? Okay.
You're the man.
Okay.
All right.
Good job, Roy.
Okay, thanks.
That's fine. He has all of your plaques right there. Yes. So you want to come down this way?
Okay.
Yeah, as it goes with the team inductions, we have one speaker only, just to condense everything. Okay, our next team inductee is the 1965 East Bremerton High School football team. Dave Enslow. Dave Enslow's coming up. In 1965, the New York Jets signed Broadway Joe Namath, and Cassius Clay changed his name to Muhammad Ali. More importantly, East High beat their rivals West High. Oh yeah, that happened. In the third game of the season at Memorial Stadium, the West Wildcats under Chuck Szymanczyk had beaten the East High Knights 10 times. On a crisp fall night, this team from crosstown East High beat their rivals 20-0. The young men from East High would go undefeated and win the Olympic League football championship that season. 9 of those players were named to the Olympic League first team. I present the 1965 East High football team into the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. I want to say that the coaches that just spoke, I want to claim everything for them. As you heard, there were 9 people that were on the all-league team, and there were a lot of people that on the squad that played, and so it really was a team thing. First time that I came in 1962, and we won our first 2 games, and we're playing West, and I remember the defense that we ran more than anything, and that was, we had like 8 people of the 11 that were playing the off-tackle hole. And then we had 2 other guys standing back there to make the tackle. And they ran all night, they ran off-tackle, and I think it was 34-0. And that continued. When we finally beat them, Coach Joe DePron, who is with me tonight, said that when they lined up for a kickoff, they were bigger than we were at the University of Washington, and they put 5 guys up front. And of course, we weren't kicking out of the end zone in those days, and it was like he said that it was like running over a log jam, and so we decided to kick off onside, and so we didn't get the ball like the Hawks did, but we gave them the ball in midfield the first part of the game, and we were able to hold off for a halftime, and then we took it to them in the second half and won 20-0. That was our tough game. Our first 2 games of the season were against Goodley, who was the team we played down in Tacoma, Mount Tahoma. They had a very good team, and the field down there at Stadium was like frozen, and we were having a field control game. Neither team was able to move the ball out of their own territory, and Cal Farr was our punter. He kicked maybe 30 yards. So we did it. We were backed up on our own 15 or so, and we had him quick kick on 3rd down, and the ball rolled all the way down to the other end of the field. And so they had the ball on that part of the field, and we were able to control it. We were able to win the game. The other team that we played early was Kelso. Neither team scored during the entire game. They were winners in their league all the time. They had Otto Kofler as coach, who was coach at the University of Washington afterward. By the time we got to the last game, I knew that we were going to win because we were running a 4-4 defense like we did at Washington. And we had, and so we ran stunts. They had the all-league quarterback, and so we stifled him all night, and they ended up with 0 territory. I noticed when I came in, they had Bruce Swelling talk to me or try to square me away on what was going on, and now Rocky is up here as my mouthpiece. So I wasn't going to tell anybody, especially Rocky, but today is my birthday. I am 77, only about 10 years older than these kids.
Great, buddy.
I hear they were. Okay. Congratulations, boys. It's great to see you all again, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
We're out of time, Joe.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just take the things and go. Okay. Thank you, Dave. All right, the next team up, the 1984 Olympic High baseball team. Welcome to the stage, Robin Campbell. The 1984 Olympic Trojans baseball team returned 10 players, but had lost 7 seniors, including 3 top pitchers from 1983. As a result, coaches Robin Campbell and Jim Sullivan were cautiously optimistic about the team's prospects for a successful season. The Trojans posted a 10-1 record in league play and an overall record of 22-3, with victories over their rivals Central Kitsap 10-1 and 16-0. They fought their way through the state championship and made it to the Kingdom for the finals. In the final game, they faced Eastmont High. While each of the Trojans contributed throughout the season, this game belonged to shortstop Joel Goodnight. Joel hit a line drive home run over the left field fence. He was the first high schooler to do that in the Kingdom. Then, he hit a triple off the right field wall with the game tied at 5-5. Standing on third, Goodnight stole home on a pass ball to win the state championship 6-5. 7 players were named to the All-League first team, and 2 players were chosen to play in the All-Star game. It's my great honor to induct my alma mater, 1984 Olympic High Trojans baseball team, into the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much to the Kitsap Athletic Roundtable. It's an honor to be here with all the rest of the people that are being honored today. Lots of connections for Olympic High, with Joey Dean being the MC, Kenny Anderson, an assistant coach, and it goes on and on. I wish that I could talk about all of them as well. I'd like to thank Olympic High School's current coach, Nate Andrews, and his staff for being here and being so supportive. So a little bit about our team that wasn't already in the bio. Normally, those people that know me, I think, might feel like I downplay things a little understated about accomplishments, but I feel like today there's no time for that. These guys were really good. They really were. They're outstanding baseball players. They're outstanding athletes. Were successful. They would have been successful in any era, but they were at Olympic High School in what many of us call the glory days. We won the state championship in 1984, were third in 85, and had a good shot at winning in 86. And these guys were all a part of one or more of those teams. They were outstanding in all phases of the game. They played tough defense. They ran the bases well. They pitched lights out, and they hit like monsters. They had a lot of power. We averaged nearly 8 runs a game that year. 9 games we pitched, holding teams to 3 hits or less. We started slow, which I think is kind of a hallmark of our teams, as we experimented with different people playing different spots and multiple people pitching. But then they settled down. We were 6-3, and we had just lost a first game of a doubleheader to Centralia at Centralia. I remember being kind of mad at them, sitting the guys down and saying, you know, it's time to stop making excuses and start playing like you're capable. They listened. I don't think it was me, but they won 16 in a row from that point. They dominated in most games, and yes, I know about East-West rivalry, but that 10-1 and 16-0 thrashing of CK felt pretty good. Paul Bittinger was on fire in the playoffs at one time, 8 for 10, and then later 10 for 15 in the playoffs. We got great pitching, a no-hitter in the first game of regionals by John Peterson, and then a 3-hitter the next night by Dave Evans. I wish all 18 of the guys could be here, plus Coach Sullivan, who is here. I wanted to make this a point today. I've been introduced many times as the coach of the state championship team, but no one was any more responsible for the success and development of those teams than Jim. Jim was the first assistant coach and coached for a number of years with us. He also then was the head coach at Fairview, and he has just done an outstanding job everywhere he's been. So I'd like to introduce the guys that are here. They have really impressed me with coming a long way, being here for us. Coach Jim Sullivan on the left, Jeff Showers, who was a first baseman for us, Mike Ellis, designated hitter, first baseman, Bill Pearson, shortstop, Jeff Acacio, outfielder, John Sherrier, catcher, Mike Kirk, second base, and Tommy McGill, right field. Thank you guys, and I hope to be able to see you again tonight.
Thanks, Freddie. They have all the plaques.
All right, next up, being inducted as a coach, Bruce Larson. Bruce started playing organized basketball, or organized sports actually, in the 9th grade when he quickly found his niche in basketball. He played at West High and still holds the school record for scoring, pouring in 40 points. He went on to play at the college level at Tacoma Community College, winning a state college title in 1971. He was then recruited to the University of Puget Sound, where he learned his coaching skills. He earned a physical education degree in 1974 and started his teaching and coaching career in the Central Kitsap School District. From CK High to the junior high level, Bruce started on the most remarkable coaching success stories in the history of Kitsap County athletics. At CK Junior High, Bruce has a girls basketball team record of 183-29 with a current 56-game winning streak. On the boys' side, he has a record of 210-36 with multiple league titles. Welcome to the stage, my former teacher and one of my biggest friends, Bruce Larson.
If someone had told me that Joey Dean would be standing up here today, he was an ex-student about, 38 years ago, I think it was, and I figured he'd be in jail. No, Joey was a great kid in school, believe me. Thanks. When I first got the call, I was kind of surprised, and I thought, man, the committee must really be desperate. And about 24 hours later, my good buddy Tommy Thompson gave me a call to congratulate me and said, oh, and by the way, I was nominated too. And I thought, yeah, they are pretty desperate. And about 3 days later, I got a call again from Tommy, and he says, hey, did you hear Ken Anderson was nominated too? And I said, they are desperate. I can say that because we worked together for a number of years. So it's amazing to have 3 junior high coaches being inducted to the fame today. And again, all 3 of us coached at the same school. So it's been very rewarding working with those 3 guys, or 2 guys, myself too. I would also like to make sure that I mentioned, I started thinking about this and I thought, wow, this is some pretty good company to be in. You look back at the athletes and the people that have contributed to our community, and I'll tell you, it is absolutely amazing. So we have a good group of people in our community, and we're doing a tremendous job in athletics. I also had the opportunity, in fact, by the way, you 3 guys that were standing earlier, that's the reason you stay in coaching. Thanks. Having the opportunity to coach my 2 sons, Chris and Chad, had a great time with them, had some wonderful opportunities to coach them. The good news was they played for me. The bad news was that eventually I had to cut both of my sons. Okay? And you think home life was good? No. Okay? Again, both of them, and this shows you what I know about coaching. My oldest son, Chris, grew to be 6'4", and my youngest son, Chad, grew to be 6'7". And so you cut those kids, and you're sitting there going, boy, what did I really do? Again, I want to thank them, especially my son, Chad. He had an opportunity to volunteer and help me coach for a couple of years, probably the best 2 years in coaching that I've ever had. I know he learned a lot. And you can imagine walking out on the basketball floor with 24 hormonal junior high girls. That's an experience, and I'm sure he'll shake his head and say, wow, why am I doing this? I also, and Joey didn't correct this, so I better do this so I can at least get a ride home. I'd like to thank my wife of 41 years for supporting me and being around. Her name is Joan, not Karen. Joey told me, he says, I've been calling her Joan for the last 25 years. He says, I didn't know her name was Karen. I also would like to thank my college coaches, Don Moside, Don Zach, Mike Akers, Jim Harney, great guys. Had a great opportunity to learn a lot of basketball from them. High school coaches, I'm going to throw some old names out, a lot of you guys will recognize. Jack Palander, Bud Grawn, Ken Chase, and of course Dick Anderson. And again, the last guy I'd like to thank is my cohort, Tommy Thompson. The guy knows just about every record that has to do with junior high basketball at Central Kitsap. I'll tell you that right now. The guy's, he's got a memory that's unbelievable. I also would like to thank him. We've had some great times coaching together. And like he said, we've got some stories that we could tell you that would scare you, okay? And again, at this time, I'd like to also give a quick shout out to my former City League players, which extended my playing career. West Bay Auto Parts, we used to be called the Pistons, and now we'd probably be called the Flat Tires. Okay? Sherm Coulon's here today. I want to thank him for coming. Ron Ness, Marie Webb, Mike Pugh. These guys were all neighborhood at one time or another. You can ask them. And again, continue to be great friends. And lastly, I'd like to close with thanking the committee for selecting me to the Hall of Fame.
There you go, pal. You bet, buddy.
All right, big guy. Next up, Ken Anderson, fast pitch player and coach. Ken Anderson is one of the most talented all-around athletes to come out of Kitsap County, be it football, basketball, baseball, slow pitch, or fast pitch. Kenneth was instrumental in every team's success. He was a standout on the Olympic College Ranger football team as a walk-on at Central Washington, and as a defensive back, he led the team in tackles while being named Defensive Player of the Year. His softball career was just as impressive. Playing shortstop, he was given the nickname Kirby after the vacuum cleaner. He started coaching football at Central Kitsap Junior High, posted an impressive 102-21 record with 11 league titles and 8 undefeated seasons. He also coached girls fast pitch, Olympic high bowling, along with athletes in the Special Olympics. As his kicking coach in 1990, it's my great honor to call up my buddy, Kenneth David Anderson.
Yeah, lower this down a little bit.
There you go.
Wow. Never thought I'd be here. I'd like to thank my family for coming, all the family, in-laws, outlaws that are in the back there. First of all, I would like to recognize and thank all my coaches. I'm going to go through a list. I'm going to say some names. You'll recognize the majority of them. During my Pee Wee years, okay, I had coaches like Hal Mollison, Joe Fletcher for football, Chuck Stark, Donnie Lay for baseball, Ron Hibbert for basketball. They made sports fun, okay? I get into the high school ranks, freshman, sophomore year. I got Mike Pugh, who's my freshman football coach. At that time, the kids were calling me Ace, you know, through the high school, and people used to do that. And I think I was really messing up on the plays. I think Coach Pugh really said, what a, And they caught on Ace, and they're saying, hey, Ace, that's a good one. So Ace was the nickname during high school. I had John Sitton for both baseball and basketball in high school. Steve Devry was my baseball coach in the summer league for the Babe Ruth. Okay, I get into the varsity level of high school. Bob Batterman, baseball coach. I mean, he's a genius. You get, well, I tell this name, I don't have to say anything else. Les Ethorn for basketball, really. Chuck Szymanczyk, football. His assistants, Lanny Dell, Bob Izzy, Chuck Uda, Ted Burney, who I saw here, Mike McKnight, again. After that, in that season, when in 1978, fall of 78 would be 79, our high school team made the state playoffs. We got on a run, had some injuries to our key running back, Tony Bodie. Ended up losing in the semifinal game, I think 3-0. Okay, so we made a run. It was really good. Went on to Olympic High School. Again, Coach Mike McKnight was my baseball coach at Olympic High School for a couple years. Get to, it was almost at the end, it was spring, and here comes this big old guy coming across the baseball field to meet me. And I'm going, what is this big guy doing? Dick Baird. Hey, I heard you play safety. And I hadn't played football for a couple years. And I said, yeah? He goes, I want you. Okay, I wasn't going to say no. Ended up playing 2 years at OC for Dick Baird. Greatest 2 years, the best choice I ever made was going back and playing, because you can't get them back. Any kids, let them know. You can't get them back. So on that with Dick Baird, his assistants at that time, Wayne Foster, John Ross, Ron Wilson, all around Kitsap County names, okay? And they motivated. If I had one thing to say about Dick Baird, intense. He taught how to hit, how to prepare, how to play, okay? And that helped me also in the coaching realm, all right? So here I am. I don't get any, offers after that 2 years. I'm like, I want to be a part of a 4-year college. I want to go back to an alumni. So I walk on at Central Washington. And Dick Baird taught me. So a couple big hits, and here I am, starting on the defense. Okay, and it was a lot of fun. In that year at Central Washington, we again got in the playoffs as a football team, first time in school history, in the NAIA playoffs. End up taking a third place. There's something about this third place thing around here that just can't get the number one. Let's say, after I left college, the best 6-7 years of my life, which I took a lot of time on there. I got to coach with Robin Campbell at Olympic High School right after they won the state championship, and also Doug Smith for football there at Olympic High School. okay? Moved on, I got hired at Central Kitsap Junior High. In my 27 years of coaching at CK, okay, I've been blessed with great athletes. There were some, I don't know, for some reason they were coming in. How many times talking? Not much? Okay. All right. What I wish is that I've made an impact on their lives that I've coached as my coaches have made in mine. I just hope you display that as you go along. Okay, and I played many years of slow pitch and fast pitch. I'll be really quick, Joe, sorry. Thanks for Jim Watson, coached us, okay, in the slow pitch realm. Jim Spencer was player coach for the fast pitch. We were like a family. We traveled 3 out of 4 weekends from April to August. And when we had a core group of guys, the Bergsmas, Mark and Rod. We had the Williams brothers, Brent and Randy, okay? On that, my brother, Rich and I, we had a whole set of brothers. We played fast pitch. We added on, we had Chuck Stark and Spencer. I think they're brothers, okay? Jim Spencer and Chuck Stark are brothers, you know? And then we had the Mollison brothers. We were grouping there. It was just great highlights of the fast pitch as we did get to go to several national championships. We took a third, like I said, a third, again in a national, but it was one of the most intense. Fast pitch was probably right up there with playing college football, the intensity in every single game. And again, I'd like to thank my family, my sisters, my brothers that are here. And yeah, cool. I'm good. Good, Joe? Oh, geez.
There it is.
All right.
Right now, I'd like to take a moment quickly to recognize the Hall of Fame Program Committee. Dick Thompson, where are you? Oh, there he is. Dick Thompson over here, chairman. Tim Quimby, in charge of research. Danny Haas, who handed this gig down to me. Chris Horn, Chuck Stark, and Jody Strickland. Give them a big round of applause. Next up, the Raines family for motorsports. The Raines family of Belfair have a rich motorcycle tradition going back 3 generations. The patriarch, 86-year-old Dave Raines, won several enduro races in the 1950s. His sons Doug and Daryl brought home several championships from Arizona to British Columbia. Daryl took more of an interest in mechanical side and currently works for Yamaha, based out of North Carolina. Jason Raines, Daryl's son, took the family name to the top of the mountain by winning 6 AMA National Scrambles titles, 2 Grand National cross-country titles. He also holds 2 golds and a silver medal from the very prestigious European International 6-Day Enduro. Please welcome to the stage the Raines family into the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, thank you. I want to make this all plain that if it wasn't for the Bremerton Cruiser Motorcycle Club, the greatest thing for family and children that people don't realize. They done more for my family and for all the families that they have. Keeping the kids busy, and that's all I did for my boys, was trying to keep them out of trouble, keep them on a paper route, support their bikes, and I'd haul them to the races on the weekends, keep them where I could keep an eye on them. That's how you take care of your kids. Anyway, it branched out and the family just kept carrying on, and here we are today. But we can't give the Bremerton Cruiser and all the great people that are involved in that group the real recognition they should have. Thank you very much. Here's Doug.
Thank you, and we'd like to thank our neighbors, the Davises. Congratulations. And Schoening family, Cliff and Marion Schoening, Cliff Cycle Center for all their support, and all of us for putting up with us. Thank you.
Cheers. Next up, Ted Brosey Jr. for football. Ted Brosey was among the first high-profile players out of South Kitsap High School under Coach Ed Fisher. Brosey was a team captain and earned all Narrows and all state honors and was a Scholastic Coach Magazine High School All-American. Say that fast. An all-around athlete, Ted also played basketball and baseball. Recruited as an offensive lineman by all the Pac-10 schools, along with Nebraska and Notre Dame, Brosey chose Don James and the Huskies, winning 2 Pac-10 championships. For his football accomplishments, please put your hands together for Ted Brosey Jr.
Very nice, thank you. I brought my entourage here today, my boys, in case anything gets out of hand here. They're here to take care of things. And I'm gonna make this really short and sweet because linemen don't do a lot of talking in front of the microphones. We play ball. So I wanna thank my mom and dad mostly for the opportunity to play sports, be involved in sports all my growing up years. I'd like to thank my high school line coaches here today, Coach Reichman. He was a lot of inspiration for me. And I'd also like to thank Coach Fisher. He's not here today, and then I'd like to also thank my coaches at the University of Washington. They taught me a lot, life lessons that I keep with me today, and thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
So we all learned something right there. Marshawn Lynch is an offensive lineman. Next up is Mike Cheney, baseball and softball. Mike Cheney was an ace pitcher for the late South Kitsap coach Elton Goodwood back in the 1970s. He posted an 8-1 record with an ERA of .095 his senior year in 1977. Cheney would go on to become a legend on the softball fields all over the country. Not with his pitching, but with his tremendous slugging power. He won his first world title with the Seattle team in 1983, then with the Suquamish team that was inducted last year, and a third with the Tacoma squad. He then won championship with the PSNS team and followed that up with another tribal team that won a national title. The scouting report on Cheney was he could hit balls into the stratosphere, and he also had a cannon for an arm. Welcome to the stage, slugger Mike Cheney.
I would like to thank the Roundtable. I would like to acknowledge the board of directors here from Elton Goodwin. We're doing a foundation for my coach in Port Orchard. We're making a scoreboard. And I would like to talk about the experiences of growing up. And let's see, we'll start at Little League. I figured out at 6 years old when they had tryouts. Well, I knew I had to have a name tag, but I knew I was too young to play. So I went and got a t-shirt, wrote a number on it, pinned it on my back, and went and tried out for Little League at 6. So, and I got picked up by the great coach, Al Posey. Al Posey was an unbelievable coach. South Kitsap all the way. And then after that, we went into many Little League state championships and got into junior high. Then I ran into Ernie Hahn. What's that little short? He always wore Beetle boots. God dang it, I gotta remember his name. Wayne Gibson. Wayne Gibson. We used to always tease Wayne about his Beetle boots. It's like, Coach, can't you at least put on a pair of tennis shoes when you hit us infield? You know, so. And then we got up to high school, and Ernie Hahn had prepared us for that. I lost my brother when I was 14 and a half years old, so Ernie took over. He grabbed us, and then he introduced us to Elton and Ed Fisher at South Kitsap, and boy, did we learn discipline. We were the backbone of South doing so good, and I would like to acknowledge that Bremerton had beat us 30 straight years in football. Well, we ended that in my junior year in 1976. We put a hurt on Bremerton they'll never forget, so that was a big honor. And then, like, I see Ted here, I see Jaco, I see all these athletes, Anderson, see all your great coaches out here, but I do want to talk about a couple of coaches that really inspired me growing up, and the great Les Ethorn from East Bremerton. Man, I just go to watch, because my sister was a homecoming queen at South Kitsap, and we got to go watch East High playing the state championship back to back, and that really inspired me at 14 years old. You know, I go like, man, I got to do that. And then the coach that always got in my craw, I remember I'd go over to Roosevelt Field and I'd get all nervous and throw up, and we're going up against East, and they had won the state championship, and I just hit one off a dead center, and Coach Goodwin tried to score me, and I ended up at home, and I ran over the pitcher, catcher, umpire, everybody, and I was safe, but I got called out of the game. Elton comes flying out of the dugout. He gets thrown out, so now we're both thrown out of the game. And that was one of my only losses in 2 years at South Kitsap, was East High Bremerton. And I can't consider that a loss because I got thrown out of the game in the 5th inning. And I had 2 triples, so I was doing my job. But talking about Coach Goodwin, he wasn't just a coach, and either was Ed Fisher. They were like our fathers. They really, and Reichman and Ballou. I mean, they're really unbelievable coaches. And I just really accept this award with gracious, and I would like to talk about my mother. My mother, from the time I could walk, had me down on the ground with my glove and teaching me how to throw forward. And my grandpa and my wife's grandpa played in the 1920-21 team that went to Japan and won 23 out of 26 games, Suquamish. And they played against the greatest black pitcher ever, Satchel Paige. And they beat her. Suquamish beat them 2-1, right over here in Sixth Stadium. I wasn't ever born, but that's where I get my genes, is from the great Suquamish ball team. And great coaching from South Kitsap. Thank you very much.
Here you go. Thank you, man. You come down here first, or go that way, whatever you want to do.
Next up is Gordy Wood, and I don't believe Gordy Wood made the trip from California. Gordy Wood was a tight end on the Olympic High School football team in the mid-1980s. After graduating in 1986, Gordy enjoyed a dazzling career at the University of Wyoming. He's still number 10 on the school's all-time receiving list with 151 receptions. After college, Gordy was invited to follow his high school coach, Doug Smith, to San Diego, where he got his teaching credentials. This led to a coaching job at Helix High School, where Smith was the principal. Helix won 2 California Interscholastic Federation championships in 2000 and 2001. Coach Wood had 2 stars on that team, Alex Smith, Doug's son, who is the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, and a running back by the name of Reggie Bush of the Detroit Lions, and a Heisman Trophy winner. Keep in mind, that year, both Alex and Reggie were nominated for the Heisman. So today we induct Gordy Wood into the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame. Danny Haas is going to receive his award.
You know, I'm kind of glad that Gordy's not here today because, quite frankly, this is the closest I'm ever going to get to this podium. It goes without saying that Gordy Wood was a great football player. Not only was he a great player, but turned out to be a pretty darn good coach, too. And I know one thing for sure, that if he was up here, he would go to great extent to thank Doug and Pam Smith for his success, not only as a high school kid, but later as a young adult, and now as a principal who chose to go back to coaching. So on his behalf, thank you. I'd also like to take a moment to congratulate all the 2014 Hall of Fame inductees. It's a privilege to be in a room with so many highly successful people, and it really speaks to the rich tradition that we have in sports in Kitsap County. And before I get off, I'd like to personally congratulate my surrogate dad, Paul Stoffel. Paul's only about 10 years older than me, but West High, they were pretty advanced in a lot of things in those days. So Paul, thank you for my existence.
Next up, Seabury Blair for media. Seabury. Oh, there he is. Seabury Blair has been a popular freelance Pacific Northwest travel writer and outdoor columnist for the Bremerton Sun for more than 17 years. Blair has penned 6 hiking and skiing guides and is presently working on a new book. He worked as a reporter, editor, and photographer at the Bainbridge Island Review and Kitsap County Herald before joining the Bremerton Sun in 1969. Blair has won several awards over the years, including the Barnes & Noble Star of Washington Award as an outstanding local author in 2004. Welcome in from the outdoors, Seabury Blair.
Thanks. I'm very honored by this, and I want to thank the Kitsap Athletic Roundtable and all of my good friends in the community. I wanted to say that I had a couple coaches, you probably exclusive to my profession, and they're sitting back there. Dan Weaver, former sports editor at the Sun, Mike Archbold, a fellow reporter there, and of course I wouldn't want to go any farther without reminding me that my real coach is my wife, BB Hardbody, who's also back there. Marlene. Again, thank you very much.
Next up for motorsports, Jim and Dave Hansen. Jim Hansen, a founding member of the Rebel Car Club from Manette, was a 1958 graduate of East High. Jim started his racing career in 1956 on an old abandoned airport runway that was Bremerton Raceway. In 1960, he and partner Jack Verhelst put together a 55 Chevy to race in the modified production class. Jim gave up the seat to brother Dave, a 1964 High graduate who had been racing go-karts. The Hansen brothers race team was formed. Jim honed his tuning skills on a 57 Chevy with a Hilborn fuel injection system. The Hansens campaigned the 5.7 in the C gas class. They started racing dragsters in 1968. They set a world record that would last nearly 2 years at 199.54 miles per hour. They also posted the first runs over 200 miles per hour and terrorized tracks all across the Northwest from 1969 to 1972. In 1979, the Hansen Brothers Racing Team secured sponsorship from local beer distributor Jennings Corporation and Coors Beer. Born was the Coors Light Silver Bullet. They won races up and down the West Coast for years. The last run was in 1989 at the Winter Nationals. Please welcome to the stage Hall of Famers Jim Hansen and Dave Hansen. Or just Dave.
Well, it was a fun 25 years that we raced up and down the Pacific Northwest. We raced both divisions, the Northwest Division and the California Division. which totaled about 20 weeks a year that we would drive a crew cab and a trailer up and down I-5 and back and forth to racetracks in Arizona and Colorado, and went back to Atlanta and raced and back into Florida. I'd like to thank my brother Jim for the thousands of hours that he put in to working on motors and race cars and driving things, them up and down the freeways so we could race. I'd like to thank my wife Debbie she reminded me the other day of 35 and a half years of marriage. Debbie did all of the accounting for the racing. She did the entry, made the airplane tickets. When I'd leave the house, she'd say, Jim's going to be on this flight at this airport. Rodney's going to come down. Rodney Nealon's here with us. Rodney worked on our alcohol cars for years. She just did a lot of things, made the hotel reservations and stuff. When you professionally race a car like that, it takes a tremendous amount of time, tremendous amount of capital to do it. I quit the Navy Yard in 1970. I went to an electrical apprenticeship there. Went to WSU. Well, I went to Olympic College for a couple of years while I was working at the Naval Shipyard. I worked graveyard, and then I would take classes there during the daytime. But I went to WSU, went to veterinarian school, got accepted, graduated in veterinarian school in 1977. Being a veterinarian for 35 years is like not even having a job. It's just a thrill to be able to practice veterinary medicine. I work strictly on horses, and it's been a lot of fun. I want to thank Bob Jennings. I always was kind of in awe of Bob and Chuck Hazelwood. Chuck helped us quite a bit also. But I asked Bob one time, I said, why do you sponsor my car? He just gave me a check, and he says, well, when I was young, I used to race boats. And he said there was a rich kid that always had a better prop than I was able to afford and stuff. And he says, so I'm just always trying to help you guys buy a better prop. And so I appreciated that. He was a good businessman and a great guy. I'd like to thank a couple of people that worked on our cars. Rod Nealon, that I went through apprenticeship. Rodney was kind of the same time. We've been friends for 45 years. Jack Verhelst, that worked on our cars, helped drive the cars up and down the freeways. Gene Berger. Herm Peterson worked on our car for about 5 or 6 years, and our car kept. When I lived in California and worked at the thoroughbred racetracks in California, we had a pretty good sized practice there, and Herman, the car stayed in Bremerton the whole time. So either I flew to the car or the car came to me, and it was a fun 25 years. So Chuck Hazelwood gave us a pickup truck one time to drive, and I asked Chuck, I says, you've been really successful. What do you think your secret to that is? And Chuck said, something, this is a great country we live in. He says, you can lose your ass and lose your ass and lose your ass. And he says, but you only need to make it one time. And I kind of used that for quite a few years in my own business, thinking that way, and it's been a very successful thing. So I appreciate the honor. My brother Jim's here and his family, and we've had a lot of fun. Thanks.
Just another reminder, we'll be closing the silent auction back here, so feel free to wander by and take a look at everything. Next up, Don Dow for football. Don Dow is a 1978 graduate of Bainbridge High School who went on to a successful career as a football player at the University of Washington. An all-league player in high school, Dow played as an offensive lineman. At the UW, he played offensive lineman for the late Don James. The Dogs were 38-9 and ranked number 1 in the country. Dow played in 4 bowl games, including 2 Rose Bowls. Don was named Washington's most improved player his senior year. A back injury ended Don's pro career with the San Francisco 49ers. It is my honor to introduce Don Dow into the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame.
Hi, buddy. Thank you. All right. I'm good.
So when you hear all that stuff, or when I hear all that stuff, it just kind of reminds me, the older I get, the better I was. That is the truth. So growing up on Bainbridge Island, and I kind of look at life, I guess, as a team sport. Growing up on Bainbridge Island, we were lucky enough to have great Pee Wee coaches. You had a real sense of community, and really build a base for myself and a lot of people to have success. Schools, community, coaches, Pee Wees. At one point, we were talking about it over at the table. At one point, our Pee Wee basketball team won over 100 games in a row. I mean, it was ridiculous. We really had some success there. And all of that really just goes to coaching in a base. I look at, Coach Shearer over here, who's a member of this hall, and was also inducted into the Washington State Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame last year. So congratulations to Coach Shearer again on that. But between Coach Shearer, the late Gordon Prentice, who was our football coach at Bainbridge High School, they gave us great skills to move forward. You'd walk into Coach Prentice's office and you'd see, the letter I is not in team. He had the classic, when you assume you make a, and then you break up the word and ass out of you and me, right? That we've all seen over time. But they really set us up for success. If you can think of this, in 1978, when we graduated, and Ron Olson's sitting over here, and Chris Chavanaugh's over here as well, who were great stars for Bainbridge High School in numerous sports. Ole and I went to the University of Washington. Ole went to Colorado on a full ride. The following year, Chris Chavanaugh, and Kurt Vestman end up at Wichita State playing football. So in 1978, Bainbridge High School put 4 kids, we had 160 kids in our graduating class, 4 kids in Division I football out of that class. And I'm not sure how many kids they've had since, but that is quite a thing, right? I mean, really. So, fast forward to the 1985 NFC Championship game, and I'm with the 49ers, and on the other side of the field is a kid named Kurt Vestman, who was playing tight end for the Chicago Bears, who was the 4th person in our class that went to Wichita State and then Idaho. So you have 2 kids from Bainbridge High School. Now, we were both on IR, right? So it wasn't like we were out there lighting it up. But back then, IR, and I would have been considered a project, Kurt probably too. That was where they'd stuff you, which is now the practice squad in today's times. But there we are. 2 kids, Kitsap Peninsula, Bainbridge Island, NFC Championship game. Pretty cool stuff, right? And nobody, I don't really think, really ever talks about there has connected those dots. University of Washington time, this might be the part where I get a little misty. I wear this pin proudly for Don James. The time that I spent there was nothing short of amazing. I was there 5 years. I was redshirted my first year. As you said, played in 4 bowl games, started in 2 of them. The life skills that came out of that, for me, I use all the time. I use it with my kids. I use it in my business. There's been a book out recently that Terry Mosier recently wrote about, Thursday Speeches. I would encourage any of you who get a chance to pick that up. It's written by a teammate of mine, Pete Tormey. But in reading that, there were times, we never really understood, and I'm sorry, but never really understood how much work that Coach James put into that, right? But Coach James could have run any Fortune 50. I have clients that are CEOs of Fortune 50 companies, and I guarantee you, those guys have nothing on Coach James from a skill level and the ability to delegate and lead people and motivate people. And I could go on and on, I won't, but I just want to say thank you for this great honor of being able to join the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame. I'm hoping to get back to Bainbridge one of these days. We'll see. My wife keeps telling me I'm free to go from sunny Medford, but we'll see how that goes out. And thank you. It's been a great honor, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much, sir. Congratulations. Here you go.
I would like to take this time to introduce you to the Kitsap Athletic Roundtable. For those of you that don't know about this organization, what we do is we raise money for local athletes, scholarships-wise, teams, put it right back into the community. And unfortunately, over the last 6 or 7 years, things have been tough. I joined 25 years ago, and it's a really good feeling to be a part of the community and giving back in the sports field. So if you have not attended one of our meetings, please check into it. You can go to, or you can write to the Kitsap Athletic Roundtable. It's in your program. Check it out. I know they're in the construction stages of a website, and you'll be able to check that out as well. Okay, Cindy Guy, gymnastics coach. Cindy Guy was a high school gymnastics coach. She was on the high school, Sammamish High School gymnastics team when she went on to Washington State as a member of the varsity gymnastics team. After college, Cindy became the head coach of the Bainbridge Island High School gymnastics team for the last 35 years. Cindy Spartans have won 12 Metro League championships and 2 Westco League titles. From 2002 to 2009, Coach Guy's team has won 124 consecutive regular season gymnastic meets. In 2005, her team won the state championship. Put your hands together for this outstanding gymnastics coach, Cindy Guy.
I think I'm the shortest of all the inductees, which is nothing new. You'll give me more time? Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for nominating me. It's a great privilege. As I sit around, I have my friend Dean Scheer here, who we taught together for 17 years and had a great relationship, and it's an honor to share this award with him. Also, I'm good friends with Leanne Charleston, and she was the basketball coach back in the 80s for Bainbridge High School. I started out when I was very young, 22. And I want to thank Gordy Prentice, many of you know him, because he took a chance on taking a 22-year-old just out of WSU to be a head coach. I had very little experience, obviously. I started out with 9 girls on my team, and we didn't have enough kids to take a bus, so they used to have me drive the school van, which, as you can see how tall I am, I really had trouble seeing the road, and I would drive around, and these girls would take me. I'm not from Kitsap County, and so they'd take me all over these back roads to Scandia, and I would just be like, "Are you kidding me?" It was very scary, but in my first year of coaching, I also had the privilege of having a girl that was being recruited to a Division I schools. So I'm 22, I have an 18-year-old, and I'm going on recruiting trips with her. So her name's Chris Canold, if anybody knows that. During my career, I also like to thank our athletic directors who have supported me over these years, and our principals, my teaching partners, Dean Scheer being one of them, Dave Walker and Matt Atkinson, because I leave school frequently to go coach. Mostly I'd like to thank my assistant coaches, because without them, this team wouldn't have been as successful as they've been. I have 2 friends here today, 2 assistant coaches, Jean Welch, who, oh shoot, there's water underneath her. Okay. Anyway, Jean and I started out, and gymnastics meets in those days would last about 5 hours. The scoring system has changed dramatically. When I started out, we had what were called superiors and mediums. We had wood beams. It was just like old school reel-to-reel tapes, if anybody remembers these days, cassettes. So it's changed. And then now I have Brian Garut as my assistant coach, and we have a great time together. He coaches bars and vault, which is not my best events. I coach beam and floor. I do a lot of the paperwork. He does a lot of the conditioning, and we kind of have this little joke going that, okay, I've coached with a lot of women over the years. So over the years, we're gymnastics, so we like to match. Girls like to match. So my, what you do at the, end of practice, so what are you wearing tomorrow? So what are you wearing tomorrow? And so I said to Brian, every single day before a meet, I say, so Brian, what are you wearing? And he always answers, clothes. And I always get a good laugh out of that because it kind of cracks me up, and it's a good way to start the day. But lastly, I'd like to thank my family. It's a long time. You coach a lot of hours and you're gone a lot. My husband, Ken, has always been there to support me, and he's learned to make one meal, and his one meal that he made for the kids, and as you know, we're on the road a lot, Sloppy Joe's. He was a master of it. So a couple years ago, I thought, we haven't had a Sloppy Joe in a really long time. I made them. I realized how terrible they are. Okay, I'm done with that. But he's been a great supporter of me. He's my, I guess, my rock. When I look back over the years that we've coached, I just want to say that it's been such a privilege to work with the girls. Watching them improve. We run a JV varsity team, so while we have on the average of 26 to 30 girls on our team, only really 6 to 7 are the varsity. So at practice, we're very busy with girls. Girls can't even do cartwheels. In fact, I have a gymnast that just learned a round-off dismount last night and did it and performed it. And it made Brian and Mai's day. It was a great honor. So while we've had a lot of success in coaching the girls to all these awards, we've also run a program that we teach kids that have very little gymnastic skills, and our goal is to have them improve. And we're not one of those teams that sits and tries to, we don't talk about winning, what we talk about is setting goals. And when I look back over the years, it's the relationships that I've had with the students and the achievements that we've had as student athletes. If you know, we've won a few state championships in the academic field. And the relationships I've had with the other coaches and my fellow coaches from Bainbridge High School. It's a great community, and I'm very proud to be part of Bainbridge High School. And I have one other thing to say, and that's go Cougs.
Cindy, if you go to YouTube and look me up, you can see my awesome cartwheel after last Sunday's Seahawks game. And I didn't even spill my beer. All right. For our last award, Carol Dodd, bowling. Mention the name Carol Dodd in the 1970s and 80s, and it was synonymous with the sport of bowling. Throughout the state, Carol ruled the lanes. Keep in mind, the lane conditions and equipment weren't nearly as conducive to scoring as they are now. Dodd held the high average in the county from 1974 to 1983. She broke the county record with 192 average in the 74-75 season. She rolled her high game of 287 in the 98-99 season. Dodd is a 13-time Kitsap Women's Bowling Association All-Star and was inducted into the KWBA Hall of Fame in 1993. Carol was the first woman in the 42-year history of the Kitsap Scratch Bowling Organization to win a singles title. Check this out. Knocking off Kitsap great Lonnie Sharkey in the finals. With that, I want to introduce to you my good friend, Carol Dodd, and welcome her to the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame.
I need it, Sal.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I guess someone's made a mess here.
Yep. Get some traction.
I just want to thank the Kitsap Sports Hall of Fame to inducting me to the great honor. And as he read all my accomplishments, I won't repeat them. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for cutting this short. We really were on a tight schedule. We did it an hour early. Give yourselves a hand. So you know that means we have a half hour of social hour at the end. Everybody can get up and mingle and visit the bar or go outside and take pictures. But first, I want to announce the winners of the silent auction. I'm not really sure what this is. ISE Instahot Satin Nickel. Is that the sink? Pardon?
What is this?
Exactly. Anyways, the winner is Gary Bowlby. Yeah, that was the sink. That's what I thought. A Kalen kitchen faucet and pull-out spray. That sounds like a sink too. Maybe it's just the nozzle. Anyways. Arlene French. Is that right? Arlene French? 2 bags of Utopia coffee went to Chris Horn. The other 2 bags of Utopia coffee went to Lynn Hughes. Jody Strickland won the Nathan Adrian autographed personal design cap. And the wine bottles went to Amber Acacio, Chris Mihuka, and Dan Weaver. All right, I rushed so far, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Joey Dean. It's been a great honor to be here, to be a part of this. I know a lot of people that were inducted. And I just want to say, love one another, take care of each other, and we'll see you soon. God bless you all.